What is up, guys? Welcome to Truth and Transparency. You guys got me for 4 hours. Let's do it. 4 hours. Start the clock.
Folks, I know there's a history here. I'd like to get this hearing in today. You know, everybody needs to just focus on the relevant facts, okay? I know there's a history here.
Are you talking up by Sunset Mart? Up the hill by the gas station?
Yeah.
Okay. Why did you? All right. Who's responsible here?
What's that?
Who's responsible here? Whose house is this?
You haven't been drinking or anything, right?
No.
Okay. Drive careful, okay?
Will do, thank you.
This is what the other group had that ran away.
Oh, really?
You just ditched it?
Awesome.
Yeah, those ones kept walking in the car and the other one.
It's truly for the win.
What up, my relaxed seniors? What is up, guys? Idaho is crazy, but we all knew it was coming.
That I was given to. So there was 2 different discs. Okay.
All right, bear with me, guys. Today, I'm gonna do my best. I have been under the weather. It's pained me not to be, first of all, live yesterday when this broke. But I don't know what's going on, but we've been just passing stuff every which way. But I'm going to try to give you guys 4 hours. Now, we had a filing at 113, 117, 124, and 129 yesterday. I want to start off with a bang. We're going to start in the order that I want to go is we're going to be doing the Franks hearing order, and then we're going to be doing the IGG, and then we'll be doing the other 2. The reason I'm going in this order is because I'm doing it in the order that the filing occurred, and I think it has something to do with the order that that transpired back 3 weeks ago. So with that said, I'm doing it in that way for a reading. We're going to come out and start with a bang. When I read that Judge Hippler, I don't know if people in Idaho have a very, very hard time with chronological order of events, because they do. And that timelines mean absolutely nothing in Idaho. But when I saw and read that, let's see, that Idaho State Police had from November 22nd, well, when they sent it over to their lab, Ortham, from November 22nd until December 10th, they're claiming to have had the IGG workup. So they were working on this tree, family tree, from November 22nd to December 10th. And then there was a meeting of the minds on December 10th as far as what to do with, okay, what do we do? Okay, we're going to go now send it to the FBI, this SNP. Okay. But prior to that, they were looking at a person that had 4 brothers. Well, Brent Kapaka has 4 brothers. Okay. Brent has 4 brothers. So I just want everybody to know that. That is wild. Absolutely wild to me. If people aren't talking about it, I don't know if they are, but everybody should know that when I saw that, the first person that I thought about was I went to Branko Paka's obituary, and I was like, damn, wow. So, but there were Idaho State Police in their lab, what they were doing, they had found a last name that was not Kohlberger, and that they wanted and reached out to a male and asked him if he would submit his DNA. Okay. You guys, I just never, I had to like read this a bunch of times. Unreal. So I want to start off with that. Next thing I want to start off with is for the Franks, there were 25 total search warrants that were issued in this investigation between December 23rd and August 1st of 2023, from like 2022 to 2023. For each issue analyzed in this order, the court has identified the date range for the specific warrants defendant claims are implicated. So again, there was a total of 25 search warrants issued between December 23rd and August of 2022 to August 1st of 2023. Now, after I read this, I first want to say that I believe that Ann Taylor read this and was like, what the hell is this man talking about? Because these aren't our arguments. I mean, this is what he's taking away from what we've argued, because I'll tell you this right now. If these were only Ann's arguments, then no, you wouldn't get a Franks. Okay. But I know just by knowing the case that these could not be Ann Taylor's only arguments. And that's why I was really kind of not happy when we got the order back before we got the transcripts. Like, let me see what transpired. Okay. Everything that was closed. Okay. Open it up. First of all, open it up. Because I'm going to tell you, there is just no way that Ann Taylor, that her arguments is what he focused on. There's just no way. And if she did, then I think there'd be some mistakes that were made. And I think you guys will get that more when I go through this. But I will say that the other big bombshell I cannot believe is Judge Hippler asked them to amend their filing, that it was too large. Okay, it was too large. So defendant's motion for Franks hearing November 14th, 2024 was accompanied by a memorandum in support of the Franks hearing. And it was a USB containing exhibits, and it was 1,951 pages. Okay. Now, that was filed on November 18th, 2024, because they wanted to bring it in person. The court subsequently issued an order requesting that the defendant file an amended memorandum, a memo containing specific cites to the record and to revise his original exhibits to include only those relevant to the motion. Okay. Now, I believe that we're going to see, just so you guys can hear me out on this, based off of this, I mean, literally it came as footnote 2 in the filing, in this order. And the reason I think it's important is because this is not the last that we're going to see this. All right. This isn't like, okay, hey, we tried, nothing to see here anymore. Absolutely not. Okay. Absolutely not. Especially after reading some of these footers. So the defendant was asked to amend this, remember? And then so when they amended it, it went from being 1,951 pages to them being 1,010 pages. Okay. So they basically took out 941 pages. All right. So they basically cut it in half almost. All right. Just so you guys can just like picture this in your mind. And these are just the exhibits. Okay. And I thought to myself, I'm like, you know, if an exhibit is, because I've had to do this myself, if I have an exhibit that I only need page 4 out of, right? But there's, let's say, 20 pages of the exhibit. When I go to connect that to like my case, and anything that I'm just doing, I'm thinking about my small level, right? That I can't just take out page 4 and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this in. I mean, that's incompleteness of evidence, if you ask me, right? So therefore, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to include all 20 pages, and then I'm just going to point that person to go to page 4, though, when I'm saying, hey, exhibit 1, and then I'll tell them page 4, paragraph whatever. Or even if I just get them on the page, I mean, what do you want me to do? Like, and I think that'd be enough. So the revised exhibits, however, listen to this shit. So after Hippler says, you need to, I'm not gonna dig through this shit. You need to like really narrow in and blah, 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 tells him. So then he says, the revised exhibits, however, only included excerpts of the search warrant affidavits being challenged. So here they do as he asks, and it's just like, okay, here, we'll just focus in on like, you know, because if you remember his oral statements, he said, you know, you have all this other crap, you know, point me to where the problem is. Okay, point me to where the problem is. So the defense does just that, you guys. And then he comes back and has the audacity to say that, oh my God, the defense only included excerpts of the search warrant affidavits being challenged. To properly consider Frank's motion, the court must necessarily consider the search warrant affidavits in its entirety. I couldn't even believe it. I couldn't even believe when I read that. I said, who does this bald motherfucker think he is? Like, I couldn't believe it. If you want me to consider this, it has to be, and I'm just like, wow. This is exactly what you told them to do. It says, consequently, the evidence considered by the court for this motion is defendant's revised exhibits as supplemented by exhibits D2, D3A, and D3B from the original exhibits. Consequently, we only can go by this. I'm just telling you guys, if you think this is the last of this stuff, you're wrong. Like, that's just not happening. It's just not happening. It's not the last of it. So let's go like this. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's share something. So welcome on the stage. Hi, Hector. How you feeling today? Straight up unbelievable. Judge Hitler. What's up, you guys in chat? I see ya. So, so the state responds. I'm going to pick up here because we know what the intro is. Okay. So let me go ahead and share this differently. I'm going to make this big. Again, welcome everybody. Hit the bell on your way in. Don't mind me. Like I said, I've been under the weather. Trying to rally for you folks. Help me rally. All right. So the state responds that the defendant has failed to make its burden, basically its res quit, that substantial preliminary showing under Franks that one, law enforcement either made false statements or omitted material information knowingly and intentionally or with reckless disregard for the truth. Or two, that the false statements or omissions were necessary to find probable cause. So, and how he wants to go about this is he reads off what the standard is. Okay. But before that, just so everybody understands, the hearing was on January 23rd. In the interest of the evidentiary efficiency, the court permitted a full Franks hearing on the motion only insofar as it pertained to the alleged omissions of information regarding defendant's identification through investigative genetic genealogy. Basically, what Ann Taylor and company were saying is that they most certainly identified him through IgG, but they tried to make it seem like they identified him in a different way. And they listed 13, ladies and gentlemen, 13 problems with the probable cause affidavit. All right. So on the remaining challenges, the court permitted argument on defendant's proffer as to whether defendant had satisfied his burden to warrant a subsequent Franks hearing. The court then took the matter under advisement. The court concludes that the search warrants are not invalid based on the omission of defendant's identification through IgG because that information would have only bolstered the probable cause for the searches. And see, this is where it's like, this is where to me, it's like, I think people in Idaho don't understand cause and effect. You cannot read that probable. Wait till we get into it, guys. It's crazy. Okay, what he says that you can conclude from that probable cause, and that this stuff isn't like material. And wow, I mean, here's your second bomb. Supposedly, Dylan saw the person carrying out what looked like a vacuum bag, a vacuum. So today, I went ahead and uploaded a video of a guy cleaning a carpet. One of my favorite things to ever watch is 10 minutes when you take a dirty carpet and like filthy. And then you have these guys use their like corporate vacuum cleaners. Okay. And it's like 13 minutes. Go check it out if you want to just sit there and watch somebody clean a carpet. But, this is where I think Steve Gonsalves is getting it, that Brian Kober went in there with a kill kit, because the person that was leaving had like a bag, but it was like a vacuum, like left with like a vacuum. Like what are we talking about? Are we talking like a shop vac? Are we talking like, what are we talking? You guys, it's going to be wild. So buckle up. Okay. It's just crazy. So, so they said the IgG information would have only bolstered the probable cause for the searches. So then you have to ask yourself, right here, Judge Hippler basically is saying, like, why aren't you guys just putting it in there? He's saying it's no big deal that you guys violated your own policies because it's just an intern policy and it wasn't anybody's constitutional right. I mean, we're just violating like company policy. Okay. So again, he goes over the standard. I'm not going to go read that. I'm going to say my voice. We should know what the standard is for Franks. So excuse me. Again, there's 13 issues. I want to read sub-footer 5 here. The court notes that in response to some of the Franks challenges, the state submitted and argued evidence that was not included in defendant's proffer. While this evidence can be considered at a Franks hearing, this stage only permits the court to consider whether defendant has made the substantial preliminary showing under Franks to warrant that hearing. United States versus McMurtry. God, is that a T? McMurtry. I can't even read. We're going to come back to this because this is when Ashley Jennings basically, I thought, walked herself into the Franks. All right. We're going to pick up right here. Here, in this Franks, the defendant claims that 17 search warrants issued in this investigation of the crime were based on false, misleading statements and or omitted exculpatory information in the various search warrant affidavits. His proffer is arranged by issue, of which there are 13. So this is how we're going to do it, okay? As mentioned, for convenience sake, everything's about convenience. I love it. For convenience sake, the court granted an evidentiary hearing on the IgG issue. This evidence will be considered under the preponderance of evidence standard. So the court was informed that the evidence of this issue substantially overlapped with evidence that was to be presented on defendant's motion to suppress the IgG. Given that, the court concluded it would be most effective to have a full Franks hearing on the IgG issue since it was slated to largely be presented anyway. So here we go. Defendant has not met his Franks burden on issues 1 and 2, which is its challenges to Exhibit A. So this is issue 1 and 2. In issues 1 and 2, defendant alleges that Exhibit A, by the way, is a big probable cause that we all have. All right. And they call it A's. So now this is going to change, I think, policing for the future. Because listen, guys, just do group work and you always are going to save your ass. That's basically, in my opinion, what Judge Hippler has come, like, this is case law going down for the ages here. So the A's, defendant's notes, Exhibit A, was a working document. Okay. So it was the magistrate knew this as a working document, drafted as a group effort among the multiple investigative officers working on the homicide investigation. In their respective search warrant applications, the officers submitted and swore to Exhibit A as their own, even though it was the product of collective effort and not necessarily limited to the swearing officer's own investigation. In issue 1, defendant challenges this approach, arguing that Exhibit A was, quote unquote, treated as a wild card to easily get a warrant. This is the amended memo, is AM is amended memo, page 9. So again, now what Judge Hippler does, he cherry picks everything and anything that the defense said, he then used their own language against them. It's wild, guys. It's wild. Ready? So remember, Hippler's just going to go through this stuff and literally cherry pick just to, like, here, this is what we're going to, these are all the things that you said, and I'm going to throw it all back in your face. So, in issue 2, he challenges alleged misrepresentations in Blaker Exhibit A, Mowry Exhibit A, and Payne Exhibit A. Defendant submits Exhibit D1A through C as evidence of the group effort. These exhibits are emails between Special Agent Nick Balance of the FBI and Detective Brent Payne of the Moscow Police Department, in which they are exchanging drafts of a probable cause statement. Issue 1 applies to all the search warrants. Issue 2 applies to the search warrants issued December 29, 2022 and later. So that's how they're breaking it up by dates. In addition to the draft Exhibit A, defendant has provided with his proffer the following 3 actual Exhibit A's, which were submitted by officers with their search warrant applications. So 1, the statement of Dustin Blaker, supporting the search warrant application for defendant's Pullman, that apartment. Okay, 2 is a statement of Lawrence Mowry, supporting, and then 3 was Payne's. Okay, these actual exhibits, Exhibit A's, are not identical to the draft Exhibit A or to each other. Nevertheless, defendant challenges them collectively in issue 1 on grounds that they are, quote unquote, largely the same statement and contain the same core set of averments. Okay. Defendant has not demonstrated any propriety in law enforcement. So basically nothing's wrong, right? But this is why. This is where I got rowdy. This is where I got rowdy. Nobody's talking about guilt or innocence. God, where does it say anything about guilt or innocence? Guilty as charged. I just love people like this. He may be guilty as fuck. He may be innocent as fuck. But what I think is hilarious is y'all should read this shit if you want to know where the United States of America is heading. And it ain't good. It ain't good. So it is well settled that statements of law enforcement officers that are based upon the observations of fellow officers participating in the same investigation carry a presumption of reliability. Okay. And then he's stating right here where he's pulling his shit from, the different cases that he's pulling his little sentences. So, defendant acknowledges that a warrant can be based on law enforcement's. So, when he ever a defendant acknowledges, so this is him basically like saying, you already know it because you said it. Okay. Now, remember what Judge Hippler said he's like, when you guys are ever going to give me an argument, I want you to give it to me from both sides. Remember that? You know, if you find case law that says this and if you have also case law that says that, don't be just giving it to me from the one side. Remember that back in the day? So here the defense, what it sounds like is just doing their job and doing it well and not playing games. So here, defendant acknowledges that a warrant can be based on law enforcement's common knowledge, but argues that officers cannot sign a collectively drafted affidavit as their own without identifying who did the work described herein. Well, yeah, especially then when you ask them questions and they don't know who did what. You know what I mean? Okay, here we go. Let's see. There you go. So for me, it's like, you don't have to write everything, but when we ask you questions and you guys can't even get it right, there's some problems there. The third boom here is that Hippler is going to say how Payne and Mowry are credible. And I mean, that just blew me away. How are people deemed credible and they are answering questions with, I don't recall, I don't know, and then saying that the other one did the other thing and the other one did this, and they're all crossing up their, like, how is that credible? How are you even writing that? It's just like, what? So, otherwise, so the defense is saying that if you're not going to sit here and say who did what and when, then you're misleading. So otherwise, it misleads the magistrate into believing that the swearing officer drafted the affidavit and performed the work therein when it was a collective effort. And this is where I say right here, doubt this was the argument. I don't believe that this was Ann Taylor's argument. I believe that this was part of it, okay? But there is no way in hell, okay, that Ann Taylor just walked up in there and was like, listen, y'all, we have an issue, okay, because this was collective work, all right, and they're signing it all as if it was like their own. What Ann Taylor had an issue is when you're writing the words I in there, okay, like you can have collective work, but it still has to be like your own draft. You're swearing to it. You better know what like went down. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm telling you, this language in here is going to affect a ton of cases down the road. So, right here, this hyper technical argument has no traction under Franks. And I said, I doubt this was the argument, honey. Even if a search warrant affidavit does not specifically identify the precise source of the information from within law enforcement, it is still sufficient to support probable cause. In quotes, if a reader would reasonably infer that the information came from other law enforcement personnel. Yeah, but what we're trying to say happened here, like, remember what a Franks is all about is that you can just say that. You can just say that and then, oh, it's automatically true. That's why we want to have a Franks hearing, is to bring these mofos in here and show that this isn't how it happened. You know, so it goes back to this whole thing. It's like, how do I wait? We'll go further. So the defendant challenged an officer's search warrant affidavit on the grounds that swearing the officer did not identify which facts were based on his own personal knowledge as opposed to hearsay information from the other sources. 2, whether he had personally viewed the evidence. 3, the source of information for the drug dog's training and experience. And 4, because this is from this other case. And 4, the identity of sources he contacted for the information. So he's showing that and comparing it to this case right here, United States versus May. Okay. For the example, the defendant challenged an officer search warrant and did it like that. And so shows that. But now here, back to this case, here, the defendant's evidence demonstrates that there were several law enforcement agencies working together in this case, including the Idaho State Police, yep, the Moscow Police Department, yep, and the feds. During his testimony from a prior hearing, this is where I just died. During his testimony from a prior hearing in this matter, Detective Brett Payne from the Moscow Police Department explained that the agents from these 3 agencies were co-located. Look at how he wants to cherry pick this. Were co-located at a command center set up at the Moscow Police Department. And I'm telling you what their argument is we don't know if they were co-located, because why would they be texting and introducing themselves via text messages if they were co-located? That's Ann Taylor's argument. Ann Taylor's argument is that were they truly co-located? I have text messages where they're introducing themselves and saying, hey, my name is so-and-so. And it's like, if you were co-located, why would you be introducing yourself via iMessages? Okay, that's Ann Taylor's argument. Okay, let's not get this twisted. And then here, but Hitler doesn't talk about that. And that's why I think it's interesting that he wants to release this shit before we get to actually see what happened in the hearing. Okay, and the thing is that I do believe that Ann brought that up. Remember, he is just picking out what he wants to put in here, you guys. And that's where I think the frustration with Ann Taylor would come in, to be like, wait a second, what about all these other arguments? What is this man speaking of? These aren't our arguments. If they are, they're like 1/20th of our, like, they're like, so like, this is not prioritized at all. So here, these agents were, okay, then, so they use Exhibit D4B, May 30th. Look at, that's the hearing transcripts at 36, 6-37. So they take that clip of him. And I said, wow, they're using the defendant's words against them, because you're going to see further. These agents were assigned different investigative tasks. Oh, were they? Because they tried to ask who was assigned what. Remember, he couldn't even get it out. These agents were all assigned different things. This is Hitler. They were. We were trying to ask them what they were assigned, and nobody knew anything. Pertinent. Remember when Payne says pertinent information they learned in performing those tasks was then exchanged and transmitted into a working probable cause evidence. And we were, you guys, this is hilarious to me. Pertinent. Remember what he says? Well, I was provided the pertinent information. Well, what is the pertinent information? Performing those tasks then were exchanged and transmitted into a working probable cause affidavit, i.e., the draft exhibits. Exhibit A that they started drafting up. Papa George Brennan's alter ego. Welcome, gifting a membership. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All assigned different things, and Payne could not remember what agents did what work. LOL. He couldn't recall 70 times. It's crazy. I agree, Heather. I'll try to scroll up and grab that last little clip there, Heather, right before that. You know, these orders are the writing on the wall for trial. Trials are won or lost in pretrial motions, and the judge just ruled a strike for the state. We're going to get into that a little bit because I have some things I want to say about that. Because I'll tell you this. Jurors are dumb. We've all learned this. But jurors put so much stock into what people look like, how they present their cases, how they are. I am telling you what, Ann Taylor and her team is going to come across way more likable based on what we've seen these jurors and how they decide things. So I think that's going to be a strike for the defense then. You know, it's going to be really hard to get behind Backseat Bill with Ashley Jennings with her pants down around her ankles leading the way. They are not, I mean, I'm sorry, but they're just not well polished. Ashley Jennings, I think she's going to fumble over a lot of questions that she's going to be asking jurors. And I do think that the experience goes to Ann Taylor's team, and they really, really need to. It's vital. It's vital that they capitalize on the blunders that the state will come. It's going to happen. You can't have it both ways. They're going to get crushed. That's what I said. They're going to get crushed on cross-examination of these witnesses. So these agents were assigned different, Payne didn't know anything. Oh, pertinent information. Okay. The information from the draft Exhibit A was then incorporated by law enforcement in varying degrees into the Exhibit A as supporting the search warrant. How? See, this is what we miss out. Like when he's saying this, was this when he testified? Because importantly, the Exhibit A's challenge by the defendant, the reason they're starting A's is because all three of them had the Exhibit A. Challenged by the defendant include statements alerting the magistrate that the defendant was assigned or was assisted by other law enforcement agents, and that the information contained within Exhibit A was based on information provided by these other agents. C. Blake, or I am being assisted by other. I agree with that. Awesome. You let everybody know that. Awesome. And he's saying, as found in Wilson, this is sufficient to allow the reviewing magistrate to reasonably infer that the information within Exhibit A came from not only, his personal knowledge, but the knowledge of other law enforcement investigating the crime. Further, the defendant has not cited to a single case supporting the proposition that law enforcement using of a working probable cause affidavit is improper. Okay. And some defendant has failed to make the requisite showing under the Franks on issue 1. Further, under no circumstances could it be reasonably concluded that had the swearing officer disclosed which members of law enforcement provided which piece of evidence, the magistrate would not have found probable cause. And this is what leads me to believe that this could have been their argument, okay, which is timeline, okay, which is saying that if we actually did have everybody talking about when they did stuff, that now we're busting up the timeline, and the timeline would expose that this is not how they did it. And so that's why I believe he puts this in here. Hippler puts this in here at the bottom, saying, further, under no circumstances could it be reasonably concluded that had the swearing officer disclosed which members of law enforcement provided which piece of evidence, the magistrate would not have found probable cause. Well, yeah, because what they're arguing there is that it couldn't be possible based on the timeline for that person to have done that. When did they do it then? you know, and that's where I'm just like, wait a second. Like, yes, yeah, you're wrong, Hitler. You're absolutely wrong. But that's why I think Hitler says this, because he's like, this is their argument, and there's just further, under no circumstances could it be reasonably concluded. And that's where it leads me to believe that I know what her argument was. Her argument was that had these people all stated what they did and when they did it, you would have a timeline, Your Honor, that made people working like they're Back to the Future. Okay? Now, number 2 here. Defendant has not established that the alleged misrepresentations in any of the 3 challenged search warrant affidavits compels a Franks hearing. Defendant claims that Sergeant Blaker's, in quotes, attributes, this is, I died. I think I called Miss Potts up. And I said, here's a bomb for you. I said, you guys aren't going to be believing this shit. You guys, the defendant claims Sergeant Blaker attributes discovering the knife sheath to the Idaho State police officers rather than Detective Payne. However, as the state correctly notes, defendant's challenge is nothing more than a quibble over semantics. You guys, I said semantics. Blaker and Payne arrived together at 4:00, okay? Payne specifically puts that he went through with Officer Smith, the house. Well, did Officer Smith say, hey, only one at a time here. Hold on. Only one at a time. And so I'll walk you through. And then I'll walk you through. Okay. So what Sergeant Blaker stated was, I was later advised by ISP investigators. They located a tan leather knife sheath lying on the bed next to Mogan's right side. You guys, when viewed from the floor, from the door. In fact, it was Detective Payne who was the first investigator to discover the knife sheath. This is a bomb. Oh my God. Oh my God. You guys, that means none of these first responders saw this knife sheath. It was totally clearly not visible to anybody until Payne got all up in that shit. And he's the one that found the knife sheath. Payne found the knife sheath. I'm dead over here. Absolutely. When I read this, I said, oh God, I thought I was going to bed, man. I'll be up all night. What the? Payne found the knife sheath. Just like we thought all along. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, the next bomb is going to be this dog, and I can't wait to talk about the dog. He shouldn't have even been touching the body. So yeah, how does he find him? How does he find the sheath? He was all up in that. I mean, you guys, this is, I mean, holy shit. And I'm right now, you're going to have to move me off of this. And this is where the state, or this is where the defense is coming from. They're saying the sheath is planted. The sheath is planted. Okay? This is like Payne 4 hours later. Now, I'm not saying it wasn't planted by Payne, right? It could have been planted by anybody, you guys. Anybody could have planted this motherfucker, okay? Anybody could have. So it's not just like Payne, but it's almost like Payne is like set up in a way. First of all, they get Payne. Oh, here, we're going to tell people that Payne, you know, he's going to run the show here. He's never ran a horse or pony show in his life, but here he's going to run this. You know, he's just new rookie of the year. Can't even believe it. Can't even believe it. I personally think that Payne probably did find it, right? Nobody else did, but hey, that's not suspicious at all. Nobody else can see it. So Payne was right there. And I can't wait to have every freaking officer on that stand be asked, did you see a sheath? Did you see a sheath? When did you see the sheath? When did you see the sheath? You guys, I was just like, wait, what? In fact, you guys, it was Detective Payne who the first investigator discovered the sheath. And that came out the grand jury transcripts. So he takes the grand jury transcripts. Once discovered, Detective Payne notified ISP investigators who then collected and booked the sheath into evidence. Now we have to ask ourselves, when was the sheath found, y'all? When was the sheath found? This is going to be very, very interesting. Do we think that it was found on day 1? Do we think that it was found on day 2? Do we think that it was found after the bodies were removed? You know? Because you're not... Oh, and then how is Payne telling, oh, hey, get over here, I found a sheath? The people that are supposed to be processing the crime scene, you know? How is it? Wait, what? Y'all, I can't even breathe. I can't breathe at this shit that I'm reading. This timeline is just, woo. Hey, hi, hold on a second. So listen to him. Then he goes like this. At best, listen to this shit. At best, Sergeant Blaker's use of the word locate is ambiguous. He's giving them excuses. Is ambiguous as to whether it means discovering or collecting. Under no reasonable reading could it be characterized as a misrepresentation, let alone an intentional or reckless false one. Well, thank you there, Judge Hippler, letting us know that at best, Sergeant Blaker's use of the word locate is ambiguous. Well, why don't we ask Sergeant Blaker some questions? That's why I don't understand. Why wasn't he asked? Because then they're just like, well, he's just going to lie. Under no reasonable reading could it be characterized as a misrepresentation. Wow. Hippler's all for, he's just back in the blue, man. Damn. It's nuts, right? The second alleged misrepresentation are in Payne Exhibit A supporting defendant's arrest warrant application and Maury Exhibit A supporting the Google warrant application. Defendant claims that both detectives simultaneously claim to have done cell site locations information. Defendant claims that both detectives simultaneously claim to have done cell site location information work as well as work to determine whether the defendant's cell phone was in the area of the King Road residence. Defendant notes, however, that both detectives admitted at a subsequent hearing in this matter that it was actually the FBI cast agent Nicholas Balance who performed the location work that the detectives then used to complete their respective affidavits. Like, he's using what they're saying to say, oh, no, it's actually a positive thing. Like, unreal. Unbelievable. That agent Balance was the individual who actually did the location work, does not render the detective statements intentionally or recklessly false or even misleading. Now, footer. These Exhibit A's both state, after consulting with FBI CAST, I was able to determine estimated locations for the 8458 phone from June 2022 to present. Yeah, and it was after consulting with FBI CAST, they then did it. They're saying that they did it. Like, Hippler is literally over here making excuses. And I don't even know what to say about this. Because this is exactly how anybody would read it. After consulting with FBI CAST, I was able to determine. And then he gets up there and say, no, I didn't do it. Well, what do you mean? You just said that you did it in here. No, I don't even know how any of that works. Balance did it. Then why did you write I? After consulting with them, I estimated the locations. And then he bails them out again to say, yeah, he said the word estimated. The fuck out of here. Are you kidding me? This is crazy. This is crazy. So again, Agent Balance, man, he wasn't. No. While defendant asserts that the detectives both claim to have done the work, they do not. They state they were able to determine the locations after consulting with FBI cast. What? Defendant asserts that the detectives both claim to have done the work. They do not. He says they do not, though. They do not, because they state they were able to determine the locations after consulting with FBI cast. No, on how it works. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he's just making their words what they really weren't meant to be. He's changing their words on what. Nope, this is what they meant. Nope, this is what they meant. How do you know what they meant? How do you know what they meant? Why aren't you citing? If this is what they meant, then where is that? Hey, but in testimony, we found out that no, this is what they meant. This is insane. I don't even know what to say about this. He's just saying, like, nope, that's not what they meant. Both detectives explained in their respective affidavits that Cass was the FBI cellular analyst. Yeah. Thus, it was made abundantly apparent to the magistrate that the detectives were relying on work performed by more specialized law enforcement agents in determining the cell phone locations. But they didn't do that. No shit, that's exactly what it was meant to be. But they didn't do that. Exactly, Hippler. That's exactly what the magistrate was thinking. But what Ann Taylor is saying is that that's not what happened. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. In sum, as to the statements encompassed in issue 2, defendant has not established that a misrepresentation was made. Moreover, even if the challenge statements could possibly be construed as false, there is not a shred of evidence they were intentionally or recklessly false. Jesus. Finally, even if the statements were intentionally or recklessly included, defendant has not established they were necessary to establish probable cause. Shut the fuck up. Like, this is insanity. This is insanity. He has an answer for everything. Out of all of these issues, you're going to sit here and tell me that the defense didn't land one of them, motherfucker? Not a single one of them. Well, now that looks kind of biased to me. They didn't land a single one of them because you had an answer for everybody. You answered it for everybody, Judge Hippler. These people weren't even present. The only person that was speculating and assuming was you when you wrote up this order. And it's all over it. This is in a common and massive investigation such as this, which specific member of law enforcement actually discovered the knife sheath or performed the location work using CSLI is irrelevant. You got to be kidding me. I love it though. Is irrelevant for probable cause. Is irrelevant for probable cause. Huh. Unbelievable. Well, what is important, you guys, is that the information came from other law enforcement personnel, which is reliable basis for the warrant. If that person knew that they were supplying it, maybe. What if I have no idea that you're relying on me to get a warrant? You know what I mean? Well, I had no idea that they were trying to get a warrant. What are you talking about? Like, oh, that's news to me. Like, how wild is that? Just shut the fuck up, man. Well, why are we just... It seems like everyone's just doing a lot of assuming around here. So, since the state can just assume all they want, but God forbid when the fucking defense tries to, assume anything or speculate, or it's like, how dare you speculate? How dare you do a damn thing? You really want me to believe that these law officers would lie about this? Oh, well, then they don't have any answers, you jackass. I think that there's a problem. Nobody cares, though. You're an idiot. This isn't... All I gotta say is, I don't know what's in the water. But Idaho, did you guys elect this dude? "35 pages of just bullshit." What is important, man, is that the information came from another law enforcement personnel. You know what? Just as long as it came from another law enforcement person, you put it down there on that probable cause affidavit, and you are fucking in like Flynn, man. You're fine. Okay, defendant has not met his Frank's burden on issue 3 or 10 eyewitness statements. So, right here, though, looking at the footer here, defendant makes a cursory allegation within issue 2 regarding an email Agent Balance sent to Detective Payne, identifying the dates and times of prior occasions that defendant's cell phone was using cellular resources consistent with it being in the area of 1122 King Road. Exhibit D1-B. Defendant contends the dates in that email were different than those in Agent Balance's CAS reports. Exhibit D5, D6. However, defendant has not identified a search warrant affidavit that included these alleged inconsistency dates. Thus, to the extent defendant is claiming the dates in the email were false, Franks is not implicated. And I have a feeling this is probably from the 900 pages that they omitted. This is crazy. Here we go. Idaho State Bar Association promotes integrity among practitioners. Yeah, right, but we can complain on their site. I love it. Thank you. 719 watching, only 273 likes. Hit that like button. Show some love for all of her hard work. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is just fucking wild, you guys. This is wild. All right. Now that's where we get into Dylan. So everybody that wants to talk about Dylan, here we go. Dylan. So in issues 3 and 10, defendant challenges the probable cause statements insofar as they set forth witness DM's interview description of things she heard and saw on the night of November 13th, 2022. This is as well as Delphi. Oh, thank you so much. Hi, Eddie. I'm trying to feel better. I'm just, going after it. I'm over here just like, I wanted to go live so bad last night, but I couldn't even breathe. Eat a bag of D's. Judge Hitler put a lot of feels into his decision. Somebody has some fee-fees. I thought Idaho was a big old, conservative state. I feel like it's being run very, I guess you could say, do you think his ruling was conservative? I don't know. Hitler's mask slipped off. All right, let's take a look. Well, so defendant claims that law enforcement failed to inform the magistrate. So think about how he wants to word it. That's why I just want to hear how Ann truly argued it. He's like, well, the defendant claims that law enforcement failed to inform the magistrate that DM's account describing the suspect were variable, that she questioned her memory, and that she did not recognize the defendant when provided with a photo of him after his arrest. So they're saying that they did not provide a photo until 12/30, 2022 after his arrest. It does come out in the timeline that on 11/17 that's when she was interviewed by Gooch. And the reason that I think she was interviewed by Gooch is because I think Dylan was in Boise and she's located in Boise. That's just me, but now in this little footer here, I want everyone to notice that DM was a roommate of the deceased and was in her own bedroom at the time of the homicides. I think it's interesting that they're saying that. I would still like to question that. So these alleged false statements and omissions, according to the defendant, were exculpatory and material. I think that both can be said. When Hitler wants to say, like, you have to take things in totality. It's like Hitler works both ways. When you take everything the defense is saying in totality, if they would have put it all in there properly, then totality, yeah, you have a problem. But like if you're just isolating each thing, right? If that's how you want to do this, that's basically what it comes down to. He's like, this is about totality. It's like, yeah, all of our issues in totality become a huge, big problem. Okay. And he's like, no. But when he wants to cite in favor with the state and say like, no, we're not suppressing this. No, we're not having a Franks. He's talking about totality, that all of these things, yeah, when you take, when you take one thing away, it's the totality of this. It's like, wait a second. You can't use totality. It works both ways. We would get the totality on the opposite side. And that's just not what I see. Like, it's just really wild, unfortunately. So while defendants challenge maybe, here we go, fodder for cross-examination, like basically you can use this all during cross-examination to destroy her. It is not the proper subject of a Franks motion. Defendant's own proffer establishes that. So then he, again, using the defense's own words to say that, hey, you guys even claim that DM's accounts were very remarkably consistent throughout her multiple interviews. And I find this hard to believe that Ann Taylor would be sitting up there and arguing and saying that DM's statements were remarkably consistent. Because then what kind of argument do you have? So he says defendant's own proffer establishes that DM's accounts were remarkably consistent throughout her multiple interviews with law enforcement. And further, the probable cause affidavits are very consistent with her accounts. And I'm over here saying, what? I highly doubt that was Ann Taylor's comments. Like, I highly doubt that. Second, DM's interview statements that her memories were fuzzy and dreamlike and may have been affected by being tired or under the influence of alcohol do not call into question her reliability to the extent Franks would require disclosure. I can't believe this. I can't believe that. Wow. Again, totality. Finally, DM's failure to recognize the photo of defendant is of no consequence, given that the intruder she saw was in a mask. No shit. Upside down world for real. Okay. Ready? So, was Murphy put outside Kaylee's bedroom at the balcony? No. This is going to get real good. Remember I told you guys, and people were like, where did you read anything about Murphy? And I said, wait for it. It's coming. Well, Payne did his own personal test about Murphy. Can you guys believe that? Hear that, people? Drink up, because being drunk makes you a credible witness in Idaho. Like, who cares? Unbelievable. 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 Miss Lacey J, conservative Idahoan here, and I love how you are protecting our rights by calling it like it is. Thank you, Lana, for all of your hard work. Thank you for being from Idaho and fucking got a good head on your shoulders there, lady. I like it. I like it. Thank you. Okay, so now let's talk about DM. The draft the draft exhibit A circulated by law enforcement included the following descriptions of the statements that DM made during her interviews. So she said, DM made statements during her interview that indicated the occupants of the King Road. So we have to attribute, here we go, 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. This is attributed to Dylan. Okay. This is with the exception of Xana, who received a DoorDash. Okay. DM said that she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she said sounded like Kaylee playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms, which were located on the 3rd floor. A short time later, DM said that she heard who she thought was Kaylee say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." Okay, these are all from the probable cause, all right? Then I get to this. At approximately 4:17 a.m., a camera at 1112 King Road picked up audio of what sounded like a struggle coming from off camera. Okay. That's not how they worded it ever. The security camera is less than 50 feet from Xana's bedroom wall. So they must have labeled it somewhere like that in something that we don't have in one of the other ones. The struggle lasted less than 1 minute, and intangible sounds can be heard on the camera. DM stated she opened up her door a 3rd time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and mask that covered the person's mouth and nose, walking toward her. See? Walking towards her. DM described the figure at 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built, blah, 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 blah. As the male walked towards the black sliding glass door, DM locked herself in the room after seeing the male. I want to know, these have extra words in them, so I don't know where that's coming from. Anyways, let's see if I go like this. Okay. Now, this portion of the draft Exhibit A was incorporated in varying degrees into Blaker's Exhibit A, Payne's Exhibit A, and Maury's Exhibit A. When these Exhibit A's were submitted in support of search warrant application, DM had sat for at least 3 interviews with law enforcement. 2 on November 13th, 1 with Officer Ninens, and later with Detective Maury. Oh, God, you guys. This is why Steve Gonzalez was talking to Maury. Maury was telling Steve everything that Dylan was saying. Everything. Damn, Maury is going to be on the stand hella in this case. When I saw that, I said, damn. Now, this is who Ashley Jennings is like, we're not even going to be using him. Okay? This is who she says, we're not even going to be using him. That's who she's referring to. And then over here, Ann Taylor's like, he played a pretty critical role in this investigation due to having some very important interviews. So Officer Noonans, he was the one that interviewed Dylan. And that has to be on camera, man. That interview has to be on camera. Then later with Detective Maury, again, same day. And then one on November 17th with Detective Gooch. She's in Boise. And I believe it's because Dylan was in Boise. You know, she'd went home. She's not there, which makes sense to me. But it's interesting that this is the person that was sent, you guys, that she did the interview. She was part of the cold case, part of the, I told you guys all about her. And she was retiring. Like she was on her way out. So Her description of the intruder was notably similar during all 3 interviews. And remember, so this had been up until the 17th. White, male, slim, skinny, lean body type, slightly taller than DM, wearing all black, wearing a mask, and it was covering his forehead and mouth. And this is where I want everybody to realize that C told you, anybody that's talking about a COVID mask can go straight and shove it up their fucking ass. I told y'all this was not a COVID mask. I told y'all this was a ski mask. So I'm going to shake my own bell. Okay. And let me tell you something about a ski mask, mofos. It was covering his forehead. All right. Last time I checked, when I do my ski masks, all right, your eyebrows can get covered up very easily. Same thing with backwards hats. All right. It's very, very, very important. All right. A COVID mask would not even come near your eyebrows. But you want to put on a ski mask, okay? For example, yesterday, I had the pleasure of going to pick up my son from school, all right? And this little girl is running outside, and she has on a full-fledged ski mask on with ski goggles. And then I see her dad riding up in a bike with a basket that he made for it. And I'm like, oh my God, what are they doing? Who is coming to pick up his kid? And here she is running out of school with the ski mask and the and she got the ski goggles. And I'm over here like, I got to get a picture of this because, you know, I'm going to start threatening my kid. If he's not behaving, I'm going to come pick his ass up in a bike in a basket. Like, this is full on child abuse. You guys, I was dying yesterday. Just had to throw that in there. You guys, I have pictures of it and I have it all blurred out so it's appropriate. You guys, I've never seen anything like it in my life. All right. And we're in Ohio, y'all. We are in Ohio. Like, it was like snowing. Shit. I'm like, Jax, I swear to God, if you keep this up. Okay, so here's me. Because I'm just. I'm like, who is getting in this thing? Oh my God. I'm like, what is going on? Look at this. Look at that. Look at that. And so I was like, okay. And I was like, I've never seen anything like this in my life. You have the tire here, the basket with the kid goes here. Then you got a basket in the front. And I'm like, oh, hell no. Hell no. I was like, oh God, this is what I'm going to tell my kid if he keeps acting up. Okay. So the kid sits in this thing that's between the 2 tires. Okay. And she is such a cute little girl. But I was like, I got to see this. I was like, which kid is going to go out, run into this thing like, yay! And here he is, chit-chatted up with the other Chad dads. He's talking to his buddy in the F-150, and I'm like, you can't make this shit up. So give a shout out to my Chad dads out there. Dude, you know, and then I'm like, here we got Judge Hippler just rolling the dice with people's lives. This is going to be, you know, you guys, I love, you know, I love momming it up, but I had to share that with you guys. Because I tell Jax, I'm like, listen here. If you're not going to behave yourself, I'm going to go get a bike with a basket, and I'm going to show up at your school, and I'm going to ride you all around town. Damn it, dude! Cutest kid though. Cutest kid comes out there with her, and so that's what That's what got me thinking about the whole Brian Kohlberger mask thing with the ski goggles. You know, she had her ski goggles on, but she had to have that mask underneath it. You know, she just not just running out there with her goggles on. But so anyways, shout out to anybody that picks up their kid. Boom. He gets the dad of the month award for me. Chad Dad's out there. Don't even know him. Bless his heart. Cheers. Anyways, back at it. So for anybody out there that said that it was a COVID mask, you know, Dylan's saying that this mask covered up his forehead, and she had no idea how she knew that he was white either, you know. But while she did not tell Officer Noonans that she noticed the intruder carrying a vacuum type object in his hand, a vacuum type object. Vacuum? Like, you guys, a vacuum? Is this supposed to be like she thought it was a vacuum, but it was a knife? I couldn't believe this either. I was like, wait, what? She said the intruder walked out or toward the back sliding door without saying anything to her. Okay. While she did not tell Officer Nunes that she noticed the intruder carrying a vacuum-type object in his hand, she did convey that information to Detective Mowery. Oh, Detective Mowery. You know. Oh, what did he have in his hand? What did he have in his hand? You guys see this, right? Like, vacuums don't have bag any longer. You guys, I don't know. This was wild. Why would she even be thinking like vacuum, you know? But Detective Mowery later that day, as well as Detective Gooch a few days later. Okay. She also told Detective Gooch that she remembered the suspect's eyebrows were bushy. So the first time that she says eyebrows being bushy was November 17th. So we don't hear anything about the eyebrows being bushy, okay, until right here. But she could not remember their color. DM likewise told Detective Mowery that she could not remember the color of his eyebrows. But see how here, but she did not say they were bushy. Like, see, she also told Detective Gooch that she remembered the. She says she also. Who did she tell this to? Where does she say anything about the brows? When it says she also told. Like, his order really kind of messes with me right there. Okay. You know. So, DM, like, you know, blah. More importantly, guys, not only are DM's statements consistent with each other with regard to the intruder's description, they were accurately included by law enforcement in the Exhibit A set forth. They were accurately included. There is not one statement in the affidavits regarding the intruder that cannot be traced directly to DM's words. You guys, 4 days later, she's talking about the eyebrows. I think there's a problem with that. I think there's a little bit of a problem with that. Who are you gonna call? Dustbusters. You guys, I just don't even know what to say. You know, what color eyebrows did he have? I don't know, normal color eyebrows. Like, he was an albino. Like, doesn't everyone have brown eyebrows? No, Lana, people have blonde eyebrows. Okay, well, I don't remember seeing last time I saw blonde eyebrows. You know, I guess. I don't know, maybe. So, but more importantly, guys, consequently, defendant has not demonstrated an intentional or reckless false statement or omission of a material exculpatory fact with regard to law enforcement's recounting. And again, I don't believe that this was her argument. I believe right here, you're going to get to there. The interview with Officer Nunes exhibit, the interview with Detective Mowry and Gooch was also interviewed on December 30th by Detective Lake after defendant's arrest, because that's what they showed in the picture. So what did they talk to her for on 12/1? He's not mentioning anything to do with the 12/1/2022. Okay. And I think that's a problem. I want to know why we're not talking about that date. Or there was a 12/13 interview. So they probably don't help his narrative. Okay. So we'll come back to those. Defendant also asserts that Exhibit A watered down DM's statements about hearing Kaylee Gonsalves around the time of the homicides. Now, this is where it's interesting, because the whole purpose of the defense is saying that, listen, the timing of all of this has to be wrong, because you're claiming that Kaylee was dead at a certain time, right? And if you think that this all started at 4:00 and that Kaylee's the one that's running up and running down, how can that be? Because she was already killed. Because what they're trying to get at here, in my opinion, is that we know the order of the deaths. Does that make sense? But for me, and I just want everybody to know this because I want to be on the record saying this. Thank you so much for your donation there. Hold on. Lana, could the vacuum-like object have been a longer gun with a silencer mechanism on it? I personally believe that gloves, a vacuum-like, if I have isotone or gloves in my hands, so if I have gloves in my hands, all right, that it could look like a pouch, you know, I'll show you what I mean, but I'll get into that. I would go with the route that I think that could look like gloves, that the person was carrying gloves, okay? And hence why there would be a glove outside on the ground with blood on it, okay? So I'll go grab my isotoner gloves really quick. Where are those gloves at, girl? Give me those gloves. Love it up. Love it up. Ooh, ooh, shake it up. Oh, they're somewhere. I don't even know where my gloves are. Anyways. Yeah, I think those are gloves. I'd be selling them as gloves. Like putting two pairs. I got two. We'll see though. We're gonna come back to that part though. Okay. Now, this is where we get the dog stuff, which is good. So defendant argues that the addition of the word thought is false. It is false. Okay? Because she didn't say that she thought she heard anything. Remember, I've been arguing this. Who did she say she thought she heard? Okay? She said that she didn't think anything. She just says, I heard Kaylee. Okay? And this is really important. So she heard Miss Gonsalves walk upstairs with her dog before running back down the stairs saying someone's here because of somebody being in Maddie's room. Someone's here, but think about all of this. Now, so she heard Kaylee walk upstairs with her dog before running back downstairs saying someone's here. In draft A, however, law enforcement represented that DM said she heard who she thought was Kaylee say something to the effect there's someone here. Emphasis added. Defendant argues that the addition of the word thought is false, and further, defendant surmises it was intentionally false to cover up the fact that DM was wrong about what she heard. And I don't believe that DM is wrong about what she heard. It's the wrong time. It's the wrong time. I think that what she heard is exactly what she heard. It's the wrong time. Or, right? But now this is how they want to argue it, because we weren't there for the argument. But I know for me how I would argue it. All right. What the defense is saying that the defendant argues the addition of the word thought is false. And further, the defendant surmises it was intentionally false to cover up the fact that DM was wrong about what she heard. Defendant points out that Miss Gonsalves was killed in the upstairs bedroom where she was found the next morning. Thus, it could not have been her who DM heard running down the stairs at 4 a.m. See? Defendant contends that DM's misperception, had it not been covered up by law enforcement, would have cast doubt on her reliability and therefore probable cause. Yes. Exactly. Exactly there, Heather. Yes, exactly. The timeline is wrong, but Anne had to argue that way for the Franks motion. Exactly. 100%. And what Heather means by that is because we're trying to show that law enforcement knew that DM, with what DM heard, wasn't at 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay? They knew that it wasn't that time. And I don't know if maybe they didn't argue it good enough, but like the argument should have been that detectives knew that what DM was hearing was earlier. And I'm sure that's how she was saying, because she couldn't say it was later because they're what? But it could have been later. It could have been later. It just wasn't. According to the state's timeline, it has to be before 4 a.m. Okay? Because Kaylee's dead after that. And the only problem is that they don't have this white Elantra coming to the scene until after 4 a.m. So they're basically saying that the killer isn't in the white Elantra. Y'all understanding that? So that's the whole moral of the story. These people were killed before 4 a.m. Sorry, guys. I needed to get some more liquids in me. Okay. Judge Hitler. He's taking on a new name. Judge Hitler is going to need a new dust filter for his Hoover Max Pressure Pro Model 60. He's going to need something. So I gotta thank you guys for this. Chelsea says this is absolutely insane. I know, right? Judge Hitler's like, what is wrong with you people? This is just totally normal. So we're the insane ones, but we'll continue to be insane. Then this is where it gets a little wild for me. So, however, the statement challenged by the defendant can be read in two ways. One, that DM said, I think it was Miss Gonsalves, which is how defendant apparently reads it, and which he claims is inconsistent with DM's interview statements. Or two, that DM said that she heard Miss Gonsalves, but law enforcement had reason to think it could have been someone else. When the statement is viewed in context, the latter makes more sense. He's just saying what they did and without them saying what they did. When the statement is viewed in context, the latter just makes more sense. Therefore, that's what it has to be. It just makes more sense. In their respective Exhibit A's, Detective Payne, Sergeant Blaker immediately followed up the challenge statement with a review of records obtained from a forensic download of Xana's phone showed that this could also have been her. as her cellular phone indicated she was likely awake and using the TikTok app at approximately 4:12 a.m. It's like he was in on this whole thing. Like he was in the room creating the probable cause almost. Like, hey, but then they backed it up with this. Okay. Through this explanation, Payne and Blaker are effectively conveying to the magistrate why they believe DM's statement of who she heard was questionable. Thus, the court cannot conclude there is anything false or misleading in this regard. But you're wrong right here, buddy. What you're doing is you're saying that she could have heard something versus just like nothing. This is just all going to the whole timeline. And I just think it's going to be really hard. You guys, a jury is going to have to believe that Dylan was 3 feet away from the killer and he didn't kill her. Okay. And just left her there. And that people were screaming bloody murder and that these two broads did nothing. Okay. That is not going to be good. This is not going to be good. All right. It's just not. In addition, even assuming it was a false statement, defendant has not established that it was an intentional or reckless attempt to IDM's alleged interpretation. This is insanity to me. How am I supposed to prove that? How am I supposed to prove that? How do I prove that you were intentional or reckless with it to misrepresent her? Or that her actual statement was exculpatory or otherwise material to probable cause? Yes, it's exculpatory because you're just, oh my God. There is no evidence law enforcement intentionally or recklessly omitted information bearing on DM's reliability or that such omissions were material to probable cause. You guys. Ready? Heather says, Dylan said it was Kaylee. So if it was Xana, then how is Dylan credible? Well, how is Dylan credible with the voices of your roommates? Okay. And then it's not only that she just heard, she's talking about people going up and down the stairs, like to go up and down the stairs with a dog. Okay. And I think that she heard these things, but they were way earlier. It's just that simple. Like she heard all of this shit, guys. It was just way earlier. All right. And then this is where it gets really interesting. I keep saying that. And then this is really gets really, really interesting to me. Again, defendant next asserts that the probable cause statements omitted important information bearing on DM's reliability. Defendant notes that DM qualified her interview statements on several occasions by questioning her memory of the event. For example, she told Detective Mowry, everything was kind of a blurry. Like, I don't fully remember it. I would say a few days later, while recounting the events to Detective Gooch, DM stated, again, I believe I was also very drunk. I don't know how much of this is real. Like, I don't know if my mind was like doing whatever. I don't know any of it. Like half this stuff, I don't know if it's a dream or if it's real. I just have no clue. She also said her memory was fuzzy and cloudy, and she could not differentiate if anything is real or if anything is a dream. This information was not included in the Exhibit A. According to the defendant, this information was crucial to allow the magistrate to properly evaluate DM's reliability, and its omission was material and exculpatory. The law does not favor defendant on this argument. Probable cause is determined by examining the totality of the circumstances. See? The totality. It's all that he keeps on talking about is this totality. And it's like, yeah, we're bringing up all of these in totality. How does it not change it? And making practical common sense decisions, whether giving all circumstances set forth in the affidavit before the court, including the veracity and basis of knowledge of persons supplying hearsay information, there is a fair probability that contraband or evidence of a crime will be found in a particular place. based on defendant's proffer, it is not a foregone fact that DM was mistaken when she said she heard Miss Gonsalves. DM reported it was approximately 4 a.m. when she heard Miss Gonsalves was walking upstairs. She heard walking upstairs and then run back down the stairs saying, "Someone's here." What? Miss Kernodle received a DoorDash delivery at the residence at 4 a.m. See Payne, Exhibit A, Bates. It is entirely possible Miss Gonsalves ran downstairs when she heard the delivery person and then went to bed, after which she was killed. This somebody is here. I'm telling you how Ann Taylor has to sell this. Okay. You need to have Dylan be describing, is somebody here because you see them outside, or when someone says like, who is that? Like, or I hear somebody upstairs. Like, you got to get to the fact of was this person quote unquote outside or inside the house? Because why would Kaylee come running downstairs saying there's somebody here and then just run back upstairs? This is what Judge Hippler is saying. Kaylee comes downstairs saying there's somebody here and then goes back upstairs, and then she was killed. Like, that's what it's right here. Miss Zana received a DoorDash delivery at the residence at 4 a.m. See Payne's exhibit. It is entirely possible that Kaylee ran downstairs when she heard the delivery person and then went to bed, after which she was killed. Oh my God. So now, okay, everyone's just running all over the place. And then the killer just comes inside and everyone's just in their beds. Everyone's running all over the place. And then, like, come on, man. Like, if that is supposed to be common sense, I don't think that's common sense to me. Whether the hearsay supplier is reliable is dependent in part on their status, unlike an informer from the criminal. So then he describes all that crap. I'm not going to go into that. Those are some photos. Okay, here we go. None of DM's qualifications during her interview reasonably placed her presumed reliability in dispute. She was a direct witness and was able to consistently articulate the details she remembered throughout each interview, especially as to the facts relied on in the search warrant affidavits. Despite the fact that she claimed her memory was fuzzy, or that she felt like it was a dream, or that she was still intoxicated. Further, even if her reliability were in question, there was other evidence included in the Exhibit A's that corroborated her account. Corroborated. For example, the security camera from 1112 King Road picked up audio of a struggle at 4:17 a.m., which coincides with when DM stated that she thought she heard crying coming from Xana's room and a male voice speaking. It was shortly after that she opened up the door for a third time and saw the suspect walk by her toward her sliding glass, walked by her toward the sliding glass door, which corresponds with the surveillance video showing the suspect vehicle leaving 1122 King Road at 4:20 a.m. In addition, law enforcement corroborated DM's description. I mean, if this isn't somebody that's just reciting this exact, yep, it's exactly what they're trying to say happened. This is exactly what they're trying to say happened. Exactly. And this all relies on the timing of when DM is saying that this is happening. Okay. So then here we go. And so it's like, yeah, but we have to account it for the totality. So they're like, yep, all of this
again, all this narrative. In addition, law enforcement corroborated DM's description of defendant through its vehicle identification efforts, which led investigators to defendant's driver's license information. The Exhibit A's note the defendant's physical description was consistent with DM's account. I'm sorry about that, but this motherfucker had a mask. Defendant has shown no objectivity indication that DM's interview statements were unreliable, particularly given the other corroborating evidence, and therefore no reason for law enforcement to include her qualifications in this affidavit. For this reason, it cannot be said that law enforcement intentionally or recklessly omitted the information. Further, the Exhibit A's inferred that DM was traumatized, and this is where I lost it, was traumatized when they noted that she stood in a frozen shock phase when she saw the intruder. She just saw a person. She didn't see an event, nothing traumatized. What could you be traumatized over? I mean, is Hitler seriously? I mean, what in the world? You guys, I cannot. You seeing somebody walk past you and then walk out the door, that's not traumatizing. I cannot believe that he put this in here. His little mouthy, wordy ass is going to get himself in a lot of trouble. There is nothing traumatic about seeing a person in your home when it is a party house and when you're yelling to get people out of your home. Dylan is not going to say that she was traumatized. Dylan is not going to say that she was in a frozen shock phase. Did Dylan say those words? This is insanity. But for Judge Hippler to say, as inferred, that DM was traumatized when they noted that she stood in a frozen shock phase when she saw the intruder, it wasn't an intruder to her. But now that you just said this, then you're going to have everyone saying, and he's already covering for her. Well, then why didn't she call 911 if she thought that it was an intruder? She thought it was Ethan's friend. Okay? That's what she thought. She thought it was Ethan's friend. You would not be traumatized by that. This necessarily alerted the magistrate that DM's memories were colored by trauma and shock. Oh my God! Who's reading this? Get out of here. Who are you selling this to? Who are you selling this to? You guys, these are novels. Idaho is giving you guys a Stephen King novel. This is insanity. This necessarily alerted the magistrate that DM's memories were colored by trauma and shock and horror, which goes to the issue of her reliability the defendant targets in this motion. Okay, and what are you talking about? Finally, even had the Exhibit A included DM's qualifications to her memory, it would not have significantly undermined her credibility. It would not have negated probable cause. It would be no surprise to the magistrate that a person experiencing what DM must have experienced, what did she experience at that moment? You son of a bitch. She didn't experience anything. Shock and horror. She didn't. This is where I'm over here flipping out. I'm like, what did DM see? Wow, Judge Hippler, you a fool for that. She didn't see anything, you guys. You cannot be in shock and horror because you didn't see anything. She didn't see anything.
This happened at their house every night. It was a party. Every night there were people in that house. People were with knives, running around chasing each other with black masks. This was nothing new, was it, Dylan? No, Anne's gonna say that to her. Here you guys have these machetes. Look at you guys with all these knives and these watermelons, right? You guys are no stranger to knives. You would know the difference between a knife and a vacuum, right, Miss Mortensen? Yes. And I'm sure if you would have seen a knife, you would have called the police, right? But you didn't see that, right? You weren't traumatized, right? Ann Taylor gonna eat that ass, but she's gonna do it so kindly because she is kind. She's not faulting Bethany or Dylan. She's faulting the police in their shitty ass investigation. And then you have Judge Hippler has to write 35 pages to come in here and clean up the shit that was literally thrown on his lawn. I mean, for Judge Hippler to write this in here solidified for me, like, oh, hell to the no, man. You're supposed to be the referee. You might as well put him in a Kansas City Chiefs uniform, okay? That's how biased he is. You come near them, it's a 15-yard penalty for roughing Ashley Jennings and Bill Jennings up. 15-yard penalty. That's roughing Bill Jennings' skirt a little bit. Back it up. So to sit here and say that DM was traumatized when they noted that she stood in frozen shock phase when she saw the intruder, you guys, the reason they're putting this in there is to downplay if what she would have seen was so crazy and like you would have called 911. And that's what's really, really important is that it didn't happen at that time. Nothing, what DM would have heard and all that stuff, that happened, but not at the time that they're saying. But to hear that this does not render her unreliable. Additionally, the bulk of probable cause came from other sources, including the extensive vehicle identification efforts. Thus, even if the magistrate questioned the reliability of DM's account, she had sufficient grounds through other evidence to issue the warrants. And see, this is where I go like, yeah, well, timeline. Please tell me Ann Taylor argued timeline with why DM is so important. Okay? And she does. In sum, defendant has not shown that DM's various qualifications to her memory are material, exculpatory facts that were initially or recklessly omitted and that would have affected probable cause. It is evident from the applicable exhibits A's that DM's account was largely relied upon to establish the timing of the homicides and a general description of the perpetrator, not to identify defendant specifically. Well, no shit, you jackass. And you can't sit there and tell me that Ann Taylor didn't argue this. Because A, if she didn't, then she's an idiot. But I don't believe that she did because that's exactly what you used DM for, is the timing of these homicides. Because you needed to coincide with this white vehicle that y'all are going to be, going crazy about. So her statements on these matters were consistent. While any perceived weakness in her memory may be fodder for cross-examination, they do not negate probable cause. Consequently, a Frank's hearing is not warranted. That takes us almost to the 2 hour minute or 2 hour mark. It's again,
I want to leave off at where the car is, but I mean, because there's just so many booms in here. But I'm going to leave us with, I'm going to go to E really quick so that way I can come back. But I want to talk about the dog. We're going to talk about what Lana said. I got your fodder right here. You guys, now this to me is the nuts of everything. Officer Payne did a dog test. Remember I told you guys? I said, do you guys think they're going to call Murphy in and get Murphy to bark and shit like that? Remember all that stuff I was talking about? Well, Payne did his own dog test. Okay. Defendant has not met his Frank's burden on issue 6, which is the dog barking. Ready? In this issue, defendant challenges omissions pertaining to the barking dog referenced in the Payne Exhibit A. All right. It states that at 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at a nearby residence on King Road picked up, quote unquote, distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper followed by a loud thud. A dog can be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17 a.m. And this is Exhibit D3-B at Bates 5161. Those are page numbers 5161. The only other information in the Payne Exhibit A pertaining to the dog refers to the fact that Kaylee Gonsalves' dog, Murphy, was found in her bedroom by first responders. Okay. Now, defendant contends that Detective Payne failed to include 3 alleged important pieces of information pertaining to the dog. Number 1, that the dog heard on the security camera continued to bark for 30 minutes after the suspect left. Okay. 2, that Detective Payne conducted a test to determine that the dog was likely outside while barking. Are you? Lana, you dirty bird. Yes. Told y'all. Told ya. And now we got to talk about, nobody wants to talk about what else Lana said, which was dog barking in outside, but also dog barking from like a vehicle, you know? So this is what he did. He did a test to determine, all right, that the dog was likely outside while barking. Now, I have a question for everybody. You have all these freaking camera people down there, okay? You have all these camera people down here, and nobody caught Payne doing tests of dog barks. What the hell was the media doing down there? I want to know what the media was doing down there, okay? How did none of you people catch Payne doing dog bark tests? Okay, I want to know what date these dog bark tests were. I mean, what were y'all doing down there? Okay, my ass would have never left if I was right there. I would have been outside of that house round the clock, you know what I mean? To know that, oh my God, they got a dog out here. Oh my God, they're doing barking tests. You know what I'm saying, man? You know, maybe he was barking himself. Thank you, Angel. We're going to highlight that one. I like that one. Good to see you in here, Angel. Kisses and love. We love you. We love your support. Now, number 3. And that Murphy was found without any blood on him, even though the bedroom doors were open where the decedents were found. Now, according to the defendant, this omitted information would have revealed that, quote unquote, ready for the bomb, whoever was in the house brought the dog back inside after the suspect vehicle left. Oh, Lana, you dirty dog. You damn right. Boom. That to me is a huge boom. Okay? Is that right? My next shirt is that right? You guys better be buying a lot of them. Me and Bella were down. We have ourselves a printer guy. Is that right? And Taylor's on the front. Is that right? You guys, wait, what? We have Payne doing dog tests, barking tests. Wow.
I said, oh my goodness, good Lord. Payne is doing barking tests like I said. And Payne, it was Payne determined. He concluded that that dog was outside. Now, let's hear how Hippler cleans this up. Let's see how Hippler cleans this up for the defense or for the prosecution. You know, so here it says, well, issue 6 applies to all the warrants. And this is same security camera shows a suspect vehicle departing from the area of 1122 King Road at 4:20 a.m. This same security camera. Okay. Exhibit D13 is a police report authored by Detective Mowry describing the test he and Detective Payne performed to ascertain whether the dog heard on the audio was inside or outside. Okay. Then Exhibit D15A is a police report indicating Murphy did not have blood on him. And Exhibit D15B is a screen capture of Officer Noonan's body camera when he arrived at the house showing the Murphy lying on Miss Gonsalves's bed with no blood on him. Oh my God, that's so sad. Oh my God. Oh yeah, that's so sad, you guys. That's so awful. That is so awful. Oh, that crushes me. Oh, God. Okay. Oh. Oh my gosh. Oh. All right. I need a minute. Sorry, guys. This is so horrible. All right. So here he goes. However, defendant argument assumes without proof. It's just like, how do you want me to prove this? Ready? So here, defendant argument assumes without proof there were no doors left open in the home after the suspect left. Okay. This assumption is not only speculative, but contrary to evidence in his proffer that the sliding glass door to the residence, the same door which DM reportedly saw the suspect walk, was left open. Thus, if the dog heard barking was in fact Murphy, it could well have come back inside through the open door and gone into Miss Gonsalves's room on his own, where it evidently remained. Wait, listen to this. He thinks this is common sense. He thinks this is common sense. That this dog was trampling through the house, coming and going, all over, and it does not have a speck of blood on it. Okay. And that it is reasonable to think, wait a second, the reason that we heard the dog is because the door was left open, so the dog goes outside, starts barking outside for 30 minutes straight, but neither anyone does anything, right? And then the dog just comes back inside versus the dog wouldn't be on some chain or leash or there's no electric fence. Like the dog just wouldn't like take off. Okay. But he wants us to believe that we are nuts, absolutely nuts for thinking that, because what the defense is saying is that somebody had to have done something with the dog. The dog has no blood on the dog. And you hear the dog barking for 30 minutes from being outside, that somebody would have had to come and get the dog and put the dog with them, or at some point when they came, that the dog was somewhere. Okay. And so, again, what I have a problem with is that this man is just assuming all over the place. And he just keeps on saying, with no proof, with no proof. No, the only people with no proof here is the freaking prosecution. While the judge would write this, I think so too. I said, this has a pellet all over it. Like, what is he doing? I mean, so get this straight, guys. This is what he's saying. We hear on the camera for 30 minutes straight, a dog is barking. Okay. And then all of a sudden the dog isn't barking anymore. Right. And something that I said, I believe that could potentially be is if the dog was put into a vehicle outside. Okay. And so the dog would bark for 30 minutes. Right. And then the dog would stop barking eventually. Right. And then they got the dog at some point to let the dog back in, which made it seem like the dog was outside barking. Okay. But now Payne did a test and they are determined. Well, now here's Judge Hippler saying, well, that's even to say if it was Murphy. It could have not been Murphy and it could have been a different dog. Okay. You guys, I just can't. Okay. I just can't. This is insanity. This is absolutely insanity. And this is why Steve and the family was like, if you had pertinent information like that dog did, yeah, because I believe that the Gonsalveses know that Murphy was, because they're hearing stuff from Mowry. They're getting all their information from Mowry. Hey, the dog was outside barking. That dog was not inside. So like, what would and that's when Steve's like, well, Murphy's not a barker. And it's like, well, don't you think that you would want to hear, here, you guys know Murphy. Like, I'm going to play the barking of the noise. Is this Murphy's bark? Come on. You're going to know your dog's bark, aren't you? Just like you're going to know when your kid cries. I know my kids cry. If my kids are playing in a room with a bunch of other kids, okay, and I hear someone start to cry, I'll know if it's my kid or not. So, but that's where I want to leave us off on this one. I'm going to be back today. Like I said, I'm gonna go at it again here. I just need to rest up my voice. I'm just really pushing through here, guys. I've been sick. I'm trying to get better, but I really want to coat my throat. But this is, I mean, this is page 23, but I skipped a couple. So I really wanted to end on this dog. Okay, because this is just, to me, it's like Ann Taylor could have had Jesus Christ there and telling him whatever, and he would have found a reason that Jesus Christ is wrong or given an excuse. So that's just what it seems like to me, is that there was an excuse for everything that Ann Taylor brought up. The person that had the excuse was the judge, and it wasn't coming from like, it was his own opinion. It wasn't like that we know this for fact. It was, nope, this is what it did, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I mean, there is some stuff like, yeah, when you're just throwing something at the wall, I can see that, but Ann Taylor's not throwing stuff at a wall here. Ann Taylor's pointing things out. I mean, to hear that Payne did a dog barking test, and to find out that the dog has no blood on the dog, but the dog was outside, and they're saying, well, they're just assuming that the dog just didn't come in on its own accord and then go and lay on that bed. Well, I would expect to see some fresh shit. So did they go around the outside and look around and see if Murphy took a dump out there between, to the time that they got home until noon? Was there any fresh shits being taken? I know that sounds sick, but since the dog's just coming and going, I mean, this is a year-old puppy. Okay, let me tell you something. Our puppy at 1 would have been running all through that neighborhood. Okay. But I'll be back. We have a lot more to talk about. This is going to be like in a 4 or 5 parter. I'll be back today, though. probably like around 3 in the afternoon. So give me like 2 or 3 hours, then I'll come back with 2 more hours. So thank you guys so much. But this is wild. Thank you, moderators. Lana, did they use an actual dog for the test, or did Payne do the barking? They should be using Murphy if you ask me.
Listen, folks,
If you have
I know
Murphy,
there's
use
a
Murphy.
history here. I'd like to get this hearing in today. You know, everybody needs to just focus on the relevant facts, okay? I know there's a history here.
Thank you guys so much. Hit the thumbs up. Be back here. I'll put a thumbnail up. Appreciate you.
Are you talking up by Sunset Mart? Up the hill by the gas station?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree with that one right
Why
there. All
did you-
roads lead back to St. Mackay 100%. One way or another. All the money.